Hello, everyone. Today is a special episode. It's one I've been meaning to do for a long time, but haven't had the healing and courage to do so. So, as some of you guys know, that October is baby and infant loss awareness and remembrance. And tomorrow, on October 15th, at Centennial Park, we are doing a walk for all those who have lost babies, infants, and children at any age, really. A child is a child to someone, no matter how old or young they are. So I really recommend and welcome any of you to come, whether you have lost, whether you know someone who has lost, whether you are a mother, father, sister, brother, cousin, friend, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle of a lost child. This is for everyone like that. It's not just for the mothers and fathers. It's for anyone, because the loss of a child, a baby, an infant affects everyone. It has a huge ripple effect. So earlier, I was in the shower and it hit me like a ton of bricks. It's time. I don't mind sharing my story, usually on one-on-ones when somebody asks. I've always been very open because I felt from the very, very beginning that it's important to share your story if you can and feel ready. And I made Lexie a promise. Our baby's name was Lexie Rose Rubel, that I would turn this experience to help others. Help moms and dads, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, whoever, friends, whoever needs to hear this. And I also pray that no one goes through this experience. However, I know that that is not the case. So I will say right now, and you will hear my voice crackle. You will hear me weep and cry and shake. This is real. This is raw. I do not apologize for this, but I will hold a space for anyone who needs this space in their life as many times as needed. So with that, I will do the disclosure, trigger warning. We will be talking about death. We will be talking about abortions. We will be talking about stillbirth and child loss and terminating for medical reasons and fatal birth defects, all of it. However, if you can, sit through and listen. My intention behind this is that you find some kind of healing or awareness, if not for your situation, maybe for someone else, or if you ever encounter this with someone else. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you through our story with Lexie Rose. So when I was younger, I had an IUD placed, and I had 2 IUDs back to back. So for 10 years, they worked amazing, loved it. And then James and I were in a place in our lives where we wanted to have a baby. And I decided I had to have my IUD surgically removed. Great, that went well. And it took us a long time to get pregnant. I say long time because a time is very perspective. It's up to your perspective. So for me, 10 months to get pregnant was very long. However, I know that some people spend their whole lives and months and years and decades, and that doesn't negate. I'm strictly speaking from my experience. But if it took a while for you to get pregnant, I hear you and I see you and I feel for you. So I had almost given up getting pregnant, and I know that seems very early. We're not here to judge. And then I started showing signs. And don't get me wrong, I thought there were signs before, and every month would be like a lunch bag letdown. But this time the test turned positive, and I was taking my dog to the vet, and I was running behind. So I quickly stuck the stick in my jacket, and took the dog to the vet. Now you can imagine what it's like going to the vet office with this stick that has your urine on it. All the attention you didn't want. I don't remember what the vet said. I just remember I was shaking, but I didn't believe it. So I went to the store and I bought 3 more packs of 2. So 6 other tests. And I was like, okay, if it's lying, these are all different brands, different kinds, that I'll know. And I believe James was at work that day. So I stopped at a friend's house and I said, hey, the test says positive, but I don't believe it. Can I please use your bathroom and pee on all these sticks? So what does she do? She hands me popcorn and more water than a whale swallows per feeding, let's just say. So I go to the bathroom, I do the thing. Sure enough, they all say positive. And bless her heart, she took pictures when it finally hit that this was real. So I have that amazing memory, like, oh my God, we're gonna have a baby. I'm gonna be a mom. And I was a stepmom for a long time, but I get to be a mom, like a real mom this time. And that was great. Then I went home and I told James, and you see on Facebook all these amazing stories of everyone doing these, hey, I'm pregnant. I didn't have that. I was so nervous. I actually kind of threw the stick at him, which not my finest moment, but again, I was shaking. So please take that into consideration. And he's like, oh, and we're happy, so on and so forth, the whole love and hug. And from that moment on, I would stroke my belly and talk to her. I hurried and went and found a Doppler. And that poor baby, I harassed her daily to hear her heartbeat. I wanted to feel closer to her, even though she was inside of me. I stopped drinking Rockstars, which was a really big deal for me. Cold turkey. I was like, I can't do this. If I walked behind a vehicle that had that was running with the exhaust, I would hold my breath. I wanted the best for her. I had been on folic acid for years, just regimented. And it wasn't for pregnancy. I didn't even know you needed it for pregnancy, but I was on it from the health food store, all that jazz. And not long after I found out I was pregnant, I became so severely ill with all day, all night sickness. It wasn't even morning sickness. It was all day, all night, at everything. And Easton at the time was in competitive hockey. So they had 5:45 a.m. practices in the mornings. James was gone. And so we found out we were pregnant late August. So then fall happens and snow and ice and you get colds and all that. I was so sick that I actually had to go to the hospital and say, hey, I think there's something wrong. I'm really, really sick. So they gave me this medication. I don't know what it's called, but it's anti-nausea drugs for chemo patients, and it comes in a film. And I would break the film because it was in 4. And I would take it and it would make my nausea bearable because I couldn't even sit through 15 minutes of Easton's games or practices without projectile vomiting. Most of the time I didn't even go inside. I just stood outside because I would run too hot and couldn't make it to the bathroom or trash can. And we didn't want anybody to know we were pregnant really until we hit that 3 months, right? Where you're safe. But I remember this one morning at the Pomeroy, it was 6 a.m. and it was freezing outside, but I stood outside and hugged my truck tailgate thing. And I don't think anybody's ever puked that much in the Pomeroy parking lot as I have. And she liked, when I was pregnant with Lexie, she liked the fake sushi, with the fake crab, dipped in teriyaki sauce with chocolate milk. That was the combo. There was no pickles and, peanut butter. It was the fake sushi, the California rolls with teriyaki sauce and chocolate milk. So now anytime I have those cravings, I'm petrified that I'm pregnant again. But when I do want a moment to remember her, I do go order those, and I say her and I have like a mother-daughter date. So here with the birthing center, you have to wait till you're 12 weeks to get your first intake appointment. So we waited, of course, and 12 weeks came around, and so excited to finally tell everyone. I even went hunting when I was pregnant. I was like, okay, and we did not know what we were having. We didn't want to know. There was no gender reveals, nothing. But I knew I was having a girl. I just knew it in my heart of hearts. And I took her hunting with a great, great friend of mine who passed not long after she passed. And I was so excited. Okay, we're on a mother-daughter hunt. This is very exciting. 12 weeks, we go to the checkup. We get our first ultrasound. And you know how you see everyone's babies are on their backs and they have a huge head? Well, all we could see was the side of my baby. And we could see her little legs and her little arms and her phenomenal heartbeat. Probably from all that Doppler training I gave her. And I was like, oh, okay. But at that point, I was just so excited. We saw the baby. And I took videos so I could send to James because he was at work. And that was great. And then they asked us if I wanted to do the blood test to see, if there's anything wrong with the baby and all that good jazz. And I accepted. James and I had conversations before about what we wanted, and that was something I really wanted. So I go do the test, and the first diabetes test, and they give you that orange juice. It's not even orange juice. It's like, what do you put in your travel trailer? It's like antifreeze. That's really what it tastes like. And then try keeping that down when you can't keep water down. So I did that, and you wait. And then I had another appointment, just a checkup. And this time when the ultrasound came around, and every time I went, I had a different doctor. And this time I was like, oh, my baby hasn't moved. It's still in the same position. I was like, can we see its head? And I made sure to remind them, we don't want to know what we're having. It's life's greatest surprise. And I was like, oh, my baby hasn't moved. Like, changed positions or anything. I couldn't see her face, really. But then we got to see her really plump legs, as if she did squats all day long. And it was really nice. I was like, okay, perfect. And then Christmas came around, and we got really, really, really sick, which was fine. And I could sort of start to feel her, but not really. And I couldn't wait. I could not wait. I would call my cousin or message her every day. Okay, what should I expect now? And what should I expect now? But the day I found out, quote unquote, the day I found out when they have ears and they can hear, I let her pick her song. And I was just guided that she wanted the song. She wanted the song. I'm sorry. Over the Rainbow. That Hawaiian ukulele song. And I didn't know what it meant. I just knew it was a beautiful song, but I had no idea what it meant, what it stood for, any of that. And I would put it on my headphones and play it for her all the time. And I like to think that she loved it because she actually liked a few songs specifically. Hey Ya. I forget who sings it. She really liked that one, and she liked Monkey, that Monkey song that was really popular a few years ago. Loved it. She also liked sour candy, and if you know me, I'm not a candy person. I could not eat enough sour candy. And when I would eat it, she would start to move a little bit, and I really loved that. So selfishly, I ate a bit more sour candy. And after Christmas, it was like January 2 or 3, we had a follow-up appointment. And, the usual, they said I was a little heavy and showing signs of diabetes. And they asked me if I had my full, real ultrasound yet. And I said no. I said, can I please have it? At this point, I'm 21 weeks along. And, she's like, oh, that's weird. Okay, yeah. And I said, also, I've never heard back about my blood test. like, have you heard back? And she's like, yeah, it's taking a really long time. And she looks, and it had to be resent, like the lab recalled it back to themselves, or whatever that means. I was like, okay, that's fair, like, great. And not even 5 days later, I'm at the school lineup. Easton went to Taylor Elementary. And I'm in the lineup, with all the other parents just waiting for him. And I get a call from Northern Health Birthing Center. I don't remember the male doctor's name, but I really wish to speak with him one day. And he goes, hey, is this Kim? Yes, it is. Hi, it's so-and-so from the birthing center. So, and like, not even a breath. So we got your blood test results back, and it looks like your baby has a 1 in 9 chance of severe spina bifida and an over 2 in 1 chance of severe fatal Down syndrome. Do you have any questions? And I'm reciting pretty much word for word how it went. And I remember my ears were ringing. I thought I threw up in my mouth. And I was like, what are you talking about? So he reiterates the data the exact same way. And I'm like, okay. So I said, okay, well, what does this mean? Well, he said, you need to start thinking about your options. And I'm like, well, I'm 21 and a half weeks along. Like, what do you want me to do? He's like, well, you could have a D&C, or you could carry to term and your baby's probably not gonna live. I shit you not, you guys, like that. And I said, well, will I get to hold my baby if something happens? He's like, no. Oh. So I don't remember saying bye. I don't remember hanging up. All I remember after that was Easton was getting in the car, and I did not want to lose my shit. I was like, okay. So I drove home right away, and I went to the bedroom. James was napping, and I closed the door and I locked it. And I literally felt my soul hit the floor. And then I told him what the doctor said. And I don't really remember much after. I just remember this. I've been through a lot in my life, but nothing like that pain. Nothing like it. And I don't remember. The hospital called us back not long after, and they said, Vancouver Children's Hospital wants you to come down for specific, these fancy ultrasounds and all that, and to determine what to do. So I went to the hospital, to the birthing center, to get my package and get my appointment papers. And just no one seemed to really have a clue of what this meant and how hard it is. But I've learned that it's one of those things that until you go through it, you don't know. So I picked up the papers and we were leaving the next Monday. But that weekend, Easton had a hockey tournament in Prince George, I think. And we all had to get on a bus. And James was working. And the bus was hot and bumpy with no bathroom for 6 or 7 hours. I think it takes longer. And I felt so sick the entire time. And I rode the bus. And I wanted to sit along. And all the other moms, the hockey moms, were so nice. They're like, oh, you're pregnant. Oh, it's exciting. And they're so caring and exciting. Meanwhile, the whole time I was there, I was like, my baby's gonna die. My baby's gonna die. My baby's going to die. How can I feel any joy? Everything that I did, every breath that I took, I was like, oh my God, my baby's gonna die. So the whole time you sit in the stands and you go to hockey dinners and, you help your kids get ready or you talk to anyone, that's all you can think. I don't remember much. And a lot of things happened when I got pregnant too. My mom finally came back into my life, and my dad was in my life at the time too. And everybody's just so happy for you. But Easton was not happy. And I understand why. And yes, I'm going to talk about this to hold space for other moms and dads who have to go through this too. He was not happy. But again, he's younger and he was going through a lot of stuff too. And there's always that fear of, well, am I going to be left too, or am I going to be replaced? Which at the time I didn't understand where he was coming from, but now I definitely do. And we're both the better for it. And he did not want this baby. He threatened to run away. He threatened to hurt himself. And by that I mean, like not shower, not go to the bathroom, not sleep, things like that. It wasn't actually hurt himself. And he was so upset. And I really tried to make it so that he would be included. But again, like I was raging hormonal. I was just dealing with so much. So to go back, I'm at this hockey tournament. James actually drove down so he could be with us because he knew I was going through all this. And then I was helping Easton through multiple tournaments that weekend. And we booked our flights. You have to book your own flights to Vancouver. We booked our flights. And I got the hotel all lined up. And our friend graciously took Easton so that we could go and we knew he was safe and taken care of and we could just focus on what was next. And when we flew to Vancouver, all went well. And then we got a hotel room. I think they put us like on the top floor. And we had ordered pizza because I loved pizza back then. And we just tried to have a good night. We just tried to make it the best. Our neighbors sure were having a good time, and we definitely laughed about that. But I barely slept that night. The next morning, the appointment couldn't come early enough. Only to find the next morning, the elevator broke. We were 15 floors up. Keep in mind, I'm fat. I can barely breathe. I know there's something wrong. And I had to climb down all 15 flights of stairs. And I overheat. It just wasn't ideal. And we get outside, and Vancouver's been hit by one of the worst snowstorms they've had in a long time. There's no transit. So I was like, okay, sir, can we please get a taxi? He's like, it's a 4-hour wait for a taxi. Our appointment was in an hour. And then I lose it. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? They're going to cancel. We won't be able to find out, like, if this is really true. And I kept thinking, maybe this is a mistake. This is a mistake. It has to be. I did everything right. It has to be a mistake. So we waited about 45 minutes for a taxi, trying to flag anyone down. And then we're like, okay, we're going to take the bus. There's a little bridge going to BC Children's Hospital, like when you're going that way. And the bridge was so full of snow. The buses actually stopped in the middle of it, and people had to get out and climb over snowbanks. So after the bus, we got off in the middle of the bridge, and we had to walk. It's all uphill from that area, and like not little uphill, like steep uphill, and snow and ice, with our backpacks, because we were going home that night to the hospital. And I had phoned them in advance, and I said, look, I'm so sorry. Please don't cancel our appointment. We're stuck. We can't go anywhere. And she said, they were by far one of the biggest blessings we could have had. I cannot thank them enough. And they were so kind. So eventually, after a lot of huffing and puffing and snacks and pee breaks, I quite literally had to stop and pee every 2 blocks. We got there, and they hurried us into an ultrasound room. And the first technician, I remember, she had bleach blonde hair. She was a bit of an older lady, wore lots of jewelry. And, James and I are just like, no, it's going to be okay. It's just a mistake. It's a fluke. So we're talking, and she's like, oh, your baby's in this position. I'm like, I know. My baby's never moved. It's like every time we have an ultrasound, she's in this position. And she looks at me, but I'm like, hey, I can eat some sour keys because she moves when I have a sour key. And then she says, okay. And they tilt me upside down a little bit. Nothing. So she goes out and grabs another tech. And this tech is a little younger, but both of them are in there. She's like, yeah, I can't get a good look at your baby. And James was trying to video the ultrasound because we actually never got a printout. And the blonde-haired lady goes, what are you doing? Turn that off. And I was so, to this day, I would like to have a chat with that woman too. I would. So we stopped, and then a doctor, I don't remember her name, she had short hair, and she starts going. And she stops, and I said, look, I can tell by your face something is wrong. And she said, okay, well, what did they tell you? I said, well, our blood test came back abnormal, and I gave her the odds that they gave us, and she put everything down and turned off the monitor. And you could tell she didn't want to have to say it. She said, oh, so you don't know? And I said, we don't know what? She said, I'm so sorry to tell you this. And she paused in between everything to let us process. She said, how far along are you? I'm like, 22 and a half weeks. And I could see it was crushing her heart, but not as rapidly as it was crushing mine. I don't remember where James was in the room. I don't remember any of the noise. And she said, your baby is fatally ill. Very, very sick. She says, your baby has what's called anencephaly. She's like, do you know what that is? And I remember now that I had seen it in a book. But we always think, not me. And I said, what does that mean? And she said, here, I'll show you. She turns the machine back on. And she presses harder, and she takes an internal ultrasound. Because I was like, we've never been able to see my baby's head or face. She said, this is why. And we got to see her face from the front. And she said, you see here where it's black? And I was like, yeah. She said, she doesn't have any skull or brain above the eyebrow and ear level. Anencephaly is a tubal deformity that happens when the cells are splitting, where the brain, so eyebrows right above the ear and up, there's no brain, there's no skull, there's a thin layer of skin, and that's it. And I said, oh my God. And I said, well, how did she get this far? And she said, I don't know. And then she continued to show, she said, her stomach here, it's full of fluid, and it's been crushing her heart because of the position that she's been in. And I said, is that why in every ultrasound, when I said, why hasn't my baby moved? She said, they probably just didn't want to tell you. And she said, she doesn't have any lungs, and she does not have a diaphragm. So everything is in her chest cavity, crushing her heart. And I said, is that why she has such a strong heartbeat? Yes. Yes, it is. I said, will my baby live? No. Your baby may die at any time, but she will never live. At the time, we didn't know it was a girl. And I don't remember much other than saying, what are our options? Because our baby's suffering. Again, James and I had these talks before we got pregnant. And to this day, we're so glad we did. Because I can't imagine having to make decisions if you hadn't talked about it, let alone if you guys are not on the same page. She said, what we can do is do genetic testing for you guys. So if you want another baby, we can know a little bit more. And then it goes by so fast. They said, we'll give you some time. Okay. And then they put you in a little room, and everybody is just so gut-wrenched for you. And I don't remember feeling the floor under my feet or the air in my lungs. I just remember felt like I was tasting blood. And they said, okay, so you can continue carrying, and one day she will just die. I said, well, that's not very fair to her. And keep in mind, when I'm saying her, we didn't know. I said, that's not very fair to our baby. I wouldn't want that. And they said, well, there's another option. It's called terminating for medical reasons. And we would terminate your baby's heart, and then we'll put you in a room and you can deliver. And I said, I get to see my baby? She said, yes. She was very surprised. And I said, well, because Fort St. John had told me they could only do a D&C. And I will quote their words to me. They said, if I wanted to hold my baby, I can hold the sack of organs after they are done, if I really wanted to. I had 2 doctors in the room tell me that. And I would like to speak to those doctors too. She said, no, ma'am. She said, you're too far along. Your baby will have a birth certificate and a death certificate. Your baby's real. And by that, she meant, if you're younger, like if you're not younger, but if you're closer to the beginning, not that your baby's not real, but she said, legally, we have to let you deliver. I said, that's all I want. There was no way in hell I was not going to hold my baby. There was even if it cost me my life, there was no way in hell I wasn't going to hold my baby. She said, okay, we'll get a team to work with you. So then they shuffled us into another room and we talked to a genetics person where they break down your genetic trees, and they asked James, okay, what do you have in your family? And there was something way down the line, very different. And then I tried to pull what I knew at the time. Okay, this is what I know, when I know that my grandma had lost a baby, but I didn't know why. And so we go through that, and then after that, we're like, shit, we have to tell, our moms, and I had to tell my best friends, our baby's going to die. She's not well. So those are texts, and nobody knows what to say. And in those times, just I'm so deeply sorry for you is probably the best. I don't know what to say. We know you don't know what to say because we don't know what to say. So after that, they bring us to a different room, and they go through and they have to ask you 3 times if you're sure that you want to terminate for medical reasons. And we're like, I said, are you sure our baby will not make it? They said, there's absolutely 0 chance. We're surprised she made it this far. Okay. So they say, okay, we'll put some potassium chloride into her heart, and it will stop her heart slowly, and then she will pass peacefully. Okay. I didn't ask how they would do that. I stupidly thought it was a pill. I was like, okay, it's a pill, it'll be okay. It's not a pill. And then they bring you it looks like an operating room. They brought me in the room. They said, okay, ma'am, you need to lay down. We have a student doctor here. Is it okay? Yes, it is. Everybody should learn so you can help others. And they lay you down, and it's so cold. And then they say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go in with a needle. And I was like, oh, what? They said, yes, we're going to go in and grab some fluid. And then we're going to go in again. We're going to grab some blood from your baby. I'm like, you're going to hurt her? And then we're going to go in. And this one you're going to need to be very still for. we're gonna go in and put the needle with the calcium chloride, or potassium chloride, whatever it's called, I don't even fucking know anymore, into her heart and make it stop. I said, you're gonna do that through me? Yes, ma'am. That's the only way to do it. You're gonna need to stand really still. Or lay really still. And the blonde lady that I didn't like from the first ultrasound was on my left. And she's like holding my shoulder and my arm down. And then they have James hold kind of like my other shoulders by my ear. Then they have a couple techs and doctors, and they're talking really fast because Lexie didn't move around a lot, but she still moved, and they don't want to miss. The pain just from the test is unbearable, but knowing that it's the last time you will ever feel your baby alive, but you didn't process that. It all happened so quickly, and it's actually physically painful. And I felt like an animal on a table. Just laying there, being held down. And after the third one, where they put it in her heart, the doctor, you could tell he just felt so bad. He said, I'm so sorry. He's like, I'll come back in 3 minutes and we'll make sure there's no heartbeat. I don't know how I didn't die from a broken heart. And I feel so bad because I didn't even take the time. I don't remember how James was processing. I was petrified. And they come back 3 minutes later. They said, I'm very sorry for your loss. Your baby has no heartbeat. I said, okay. And they said, we don't have a room ready for you yet. So go to a hotel and we'll call you when we have one. So we had to leave the hospital with your dead baby in your belly. And I was so mad because I was still fucking hungry and I wanted a chocolate chip muffin from Tim Hortons. Like, there was no way I would. And I was like, so upset. How can I be hungry? This just happened. And as soon as we get to the hotel room, they say, oh, we have a room for you. You can come back. So back out we go. We hike the 7 blocks. And they were just so kind. We go to, it was a wing of the hospital named after like a tree. It was really pretty. And they had a special room for us at the very, very end on the left. And on the door it said, do not disturb, do not check, one nurse only. And we went and they got us settled in. And if I ever had another child, I would name my child after this nurse. Her name was Morgan. And I swear to God, she was actually an angel. She was so patient and kind. And I couldn't have done it without James. And I couldn't have done it without her. So they walk you through what's going to happen. They're going to induce you. And what's going to happen is that they put, I believe they're like pills or capsules by your cervix every 3 hours. And then the contractions are going to start. And I said, oh, so I'm going to have my baby now. She said, yes. And I know it should have registered, but it just doesn't. So she's like, I'm going to touch your thigh. I'm going to touch your other thigh. Okay, I'm going to put the capsules in. Here you go. And we're going to put an IV on you so you stay hydrated. Okay, fair enough. So first 3 hours, okay. And then James and I are just whatever. But then you have a social worker that comes in. Hi, everyone. And I remember this social worker. She was nice enough. But all I remember staring at with her hands, because she had like the self-tanning lotion, but she hadn't done a very good job on her hands. And everything she said to me, all I focused on were her hands. I can still see them so clearly. She said, hi, I'm so sorry for your loss, you guys. I'll be your social worker. And she's like, okay, well, you guys will have groups and this and that in Fort St. John. I said, there aren't any. And she's like, I'll go and check. Sure enough, she's like, I'm so sorry, they don't have that support. I'm like, it's okay. And then she would go through the list. I said, we don't have that support up there. We don't have anything like that. And you could tell she was becoming quite desperate. She said, okay, well, this part's going to be very difficult. Do you guys want an autopsy? I haven't even delivered our baby yet. And we said, at first we said yes. We want an autopsy. We wanted genetic testing. So we knew, if we had more children, like that, what is happening? What is this? Like, what happened? She said, okay. And then we have paperwork to sign for the autopsy. Now, while this is going on, my contractions start. And let me tell you, when you have not had a baby and those contractions start, I don't care how long or not long you're in, or whether you're giving birth to a live or a baby that has passed, they're real. And I remember the first one, it gutted me, like, what is happening? I actually called our nurse Morgan back in. I was like, what is this? Like, what's happening? And she could tell, I think, that I was just really lost. She said, Kim, you're having contractions. It's beginning. And I was like, this is so painful. So they gave me, I think it was like the laughing gas or whatever it's called. And the social worker's in and out the whole time. And she said, okay, well, have you thought about, where you want her sent? Do you want an open casket, or do you want cremation? I had texted a friend of mine here. She works at the Hamry Funeral Home, or Hamry's. And I said, hey, our baby's passed away. And I said, but we're in Vancouver. Can you please help me get her home? And she was so kind. She said, absolutely. She said, give the social worker my number and I'll help you with everything. I said, okay. So the social worker's like, wow, I just talked to so-and-so and everything's lined up. I said, okay. And then they ask, like, do you have a name picked out? Do you know this? I said, we don't know what we're having. I said, can you please just leave us? And she said, yes, I'll leave packages. And the amount of packages and pamphlets they have, I mean, they don't do the pain justice, and they weren't very helpful at the time at all. But I understand why they're doing that. And she would just sit and look at me. How do you feel? How do you feel? How do you feel? And I'm pretty sure at one point I looked at her, I feel like you should fuck off right now. Please. Keep in mind, contractions, I'm hungry, just everything else that's happened. I was pinned on the table while they did what they did. So we went in there around 5 p.m. And one thing I really, really, really was not prepared for was, while you're in this wing, I had 12 hours of labor? While you're in this wing, you can hear all of the other babies being born, one after the other, and they're wailing, and they took their first breath, and you can hear everybody, oh, congratulations. Meanwhile, you're very happy for them. You're so happy. But it's an absolute reminder of what you will not have. That you are going through this physical pain, and you will push your baby out, and it will not be alive. You will not go home with your baby. And you will never have memories other than that day with your baby. So the next morning, the contractions got really, really bad. And I'm saying really bad because they were bad to me, but I understand if you're fully dilated, God bless you. Men, buy push presents. God bless you. And I said, oh, I can't stand this pain. Can you please give me an epidural? So they go, and I'm going to call her the epidural doctor. It's like, okay, lay on your side. They were pretty much finished my epidural when I said, I just peed my pants. And I was so embarrassed. I said, I'm so sorry, Morgan. I just peed. I don't understand what's happening. I didn't have to go. She said, Kim, your water broke. And then they had time to just turn me over, and I was clenching. You know how kids like clench and hold their crotch and cross their feet to not pee? I was clenching like that on the bed, and I said, she's coming. The baby's coming. I said, I can't push. And they quickly got everything set up, and they said, you have to push. And I said, I don't want to push. I don't want to. And one push, that's all she took. One push. And she came out. And then there was 2 nurses at the point. They quickly took her, and they took her to like the baby bed thing. And I didn't know it was a girl. And all I kept asking is, what did we have? What did we have? Like, what did we have? And she said, you guys have a baby girl. You have a baby girl. And we only had one name picked. We didn't even have boy names. And the name we picked was Lexie Rose. And we picked Lexie because it's so beautiful. And during my whole pregnancy, all I wanted to watch was Grey's Anatomy. And then they put her in my hands. She's so little. She fit in my tiny, tiny, chubby hands. All of her body. And I remember saying, hi, baby girl. And I remember looking at James, and I was like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. She was like perfect. And I was shocked. I didn't know what babies look like at 22.5 weeks. And she was perfect down to the little ridges under her nose. You know, the little ridge on top of the lip? Just like James. And I remember I whipped around at James and I said, that's not fair. She only looks like you. She only looked like James. Like, you would have questioned if I was actually her mother. That's how much she looked like James. And she had her little hands tucked together under her chin. And they were perfect little hands. And she had this look on her face, like, like sassy. I'm sure I've shared those pictures where her lips are just like perked up together and her nose is carbon copy of James and Easton. And her little ears and her face. I'm like, wow, you're so beautiful. So beautiful. And I'm forever thankful for James because he took pictures. I was very like high on laughing gas and all the stuff and the pain and the grief and the fact that I just birthed our baby and the fact that I'm holding a newborn baby, which I'd never done in my life. But all of it was happening at once and the end of it too. And he would take pictures and we're trying to take some where we're not crying. And then the nurses are coming in and out, like you have to get your placenta out and then they have to do more tests. And then they keep taking Lexie to do their thing. And then you have like the counselors now that are coming in and they said, okay, well, can we take, prints of her hands and her feet? I was like, yes. But I said, please don't hurt her. And she said, we don't hurt her. We don't even press. So you'll get what she has. And her skin was so thin. I didn't even touch her. I would barely touch her hand. I never unwrapped her. And I'm really regretful of that. But I'm so thankful they took pictures of her cutest feet. I think I would have just kissed them. Anyways. And they took pictures of her. And then the seniors' homes, they knit. They crochet perfect little hats for her. And the hats were so big on her. And I never took her hat off. You could see a little bit where the skull ended. And I was just like, how are you so perfect and so sick? How did you make it this far? And we snuggled, James and me, and we laid on the bed together, and then we played her song to her.
And I still didn't know what the song meant. And they took her and they changed her, but something they don't tell you is that when you give birth and your baby's passed, is that they change very quickly. So she was very plump and pink in the beginning, and then she starts to go pale. And you can see the veins a little bit more, and her face changes, and she looks tired. Your baby looks tired, but you don't want to go. So I gave birth to her at 6:10, but the lady wrote 6:14. And she measured, I think, 5 inches. They measured her in centimeters. I don't know what the heck centimeters are. And she weighed 0.6 of a pound. She fit in my hand so perfectly, and I was so afraid to hurt her, but I kept falling asleep because I was just absolutely exhausted. And I got to sleep with her, and then James got to sleep with her. And James said, "Babe, we should let people know we had a baby." And I remember writing that post. Well, not the post, but the text to send pictures. "Hey, we had our baby today. Her name is Lexie Rose Rubel. She weighed 0.6 of a pound and measured 5 inches, and she's absolutely perfect and only looks like her dad. And she's already an angel, but we love her so much." And we sent that. And I didn't want to text anyone. I didn't want to call anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I just wanted the time that I had with her, because she was changing before our eyes. And then this is the kind of shit that happens in the background that you don't really think will happen, but it happens. You know, people call and they said, "Okay, well, we're going to come down and we're going to help you." And I said, "Don't come down. We don't know how long we're here. And I don't even know what's going on. Please don't come down." And then people's feelings got hurt. My dad's feelings got hurt. And I said, "Look, I don't know how long we're going to be here. Can I please just enjoy my time with our daughter? That's all I want." And we left it at that. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because actually James took pictures of me while I was on the phone, and I just looked absolutely gutted with life. And especially knowing what conversations I was having while I was holding our dead daughter. Please don't be that person. Please find some love in your heart to understand when someone says, "Please don't come visit me right now. Our child just died, but I love you," and I really love the thought. That was something that I really learned. And we spent 6 hours with her in the room, and we heard all the babies between then being born too. And then it was so nice though, because the doctor, the tech that told us what Lexie had came up, and the doctor that performed the amniotic test, he said, "May I please see your daughter? I would love to." I said, "Yes, absolutely." We had a lot of people come look at Lexie, and she was absolutely beautiful. And I do know in my heart that a lot of them were curious to see what a baby with anencephaly looks like. But in my heart at that moment, I knew that was okay. Because I said, if we can share our experience, baby girl, and it helps other babies and parents, then that is what I will do till my dying breath. And you know, you made all the decisions, and then while you're passing the baby and people are checking you and making sure everything's good, they said, "Okay, here's your death certificate for your daughter. And you have to sign it before you leave." And I said, "Okay, well, we're gonna send her to the autopsy." And I said, "Well, is she gonna be alone?" And I know it sounds like a stupid question, but I said, "She just got here, and I'm gonna send her to a morgue alone." And the nurse at the time, it was a different nurse, she sat me down and she said, "I can't imagine what this is like, but," she said, "I know the people that work at this hospital, And we take care of angel babies like they were our own. She will be cared for and loved every step of the way. She will not be alone. And I don't know why, but that made me feel like, okay, because I will tell you something. When it's time to leave, and you have to leave your baby in that bassinet, she stays and goes to the morgue. And you leave. When you walk through that door, the world didn't stop. Nothing stopped. No one knows what you went through. Nothing changed. You have to physically, some of us have a hard time leaving our kids like on sleepovers and their first day at school. Leave your baby forever in a room to go to the morgue. I remember I was holding on so tight to James. I said, I can't look back. I will never leave. I can't look back. She's gonna be okay. And we went to a hotel room. Somebody really nice here in Fort St. John helped us change our tickets because this was a fiasco. Like, you still have to book your tickets, you still have to book your hotels. We didn't know how long we'd be. There's like snowstorms and all this stuff, and she helped us change our tickets. And I know it sounds like a little feat, but it was just, I was so thankful. While we were in the taxi on our way to the hotel to wait for the next day, the radio comes on. It says Celine Dion's mom passed away, and Celine Dion did an homage song for her passing, and it was Over the Rainbow. And it was at that point that I really clicked why Lexie picked that for her and what the song meant. I didn't know. So on January 16th was the day Lexie was born. And the first and last time we ever saw her physically. So we came back home. We picked up Easton, and life did not stop. James got called urgently to work. Soon after, Easton had to go to school. And I just remember I wanted to sleep because I could not breathe. I was suffocating from my heartbreak. I could actually feel my heart tear itself apart, let alone what was going in my mind. You go back over every scenario. You wish you had taken each moment in more. You go through it all of it. Meanwhile, you came home to a young kid who's like, oh, sweet, I don't have a sister. And I'm going to say it like that, but I know he didn't mean it like that, but I'm going to say it because I know that I'm not the only one that deals with this. And I promised myself, I said, I don't want to resent, I want to understand, but I need to grieve right now. And not even 3 weeks after that, COVID hit. So guess what? We're all on lockdown now together. I do not get to grieve alone because we are together for all of it, and I need to homeschool. And I was very angry. I was so angry, and I never allowed myself to fall apart anywhere. It took me weeks to be able to go to the grocery store. I would drive to the parking lot, and then I would drive away. Or I would drive to go somewhere, and I would see someone with a stroller or their baby, and I would drive away. I have left so many full carts because I just couldn't take seeing someone else's baby in the cart. And I'm going to make something very, very clear here and be very transparent. At no point in time did I resent anyone for having a baby. I didn't want just another baby. I wanted mine. And I was very clear that another person's baby did not take away from mine. I was never jealous of somebody else's babies. I never wanted theirs or anything like that. It reminded me of everything I did not have, will never have with Lexie. And for those that, oh, you can have another baby. You cannot have another baby to replace the one you lost. please just never say that to someone who lost a child. And so many people found out afterwards because I hadn't put it on Facebook and saying that we had our daughter. And I remember, and I feel so bad for her. She came to me. I was walking out of a store and she said, "Oh, you look so good. How's the pregnancy going?" And she didn't know. And I said, "Our baby died." And I kept walking. And I felt bad, and it wasn't to be mean to her. I didn't have good social skills at this point. Our baby died. And I said, "Oof, I don't want to have that conversation over and over again." So we made a post on Facebook to let our friends and family know, and I know that they would let their people know because, one thing that people talk about more than anything is those that have lost babies. And I know it means well, but I also learned so much. I have a friend, she also lost her baby a long, long time ago, but when you lose a child, there is no time. She'd told me about it years before I had Lexie. And I tried to understand, and I didn't know what to say, I didn't know what to do, and I didn't understand the pain. But I thought of her the day I had Lexie. And I want to say I'm so, so sorry with every cell in my being. If I didn't know what to say, if I didn't say the right things, or I said something that upset, and then my heart went out to everyone that had lost a child, a baby, an infant. It just became a new way of knowing. This is really hard. But we had so much support. People took Easton for sleepovers, which before COVID lockdown, which made things so much easier. And something I learned from grieving, something I really want to share with everyone. If you don't know what to do for someone who has lost a child, or a parent, or it doesn't matter, I consider her a good friend, even though we probably never really hung out. She brought me food. Frozen enchiladas. I didn't know what enchiladas were. And lasagna, I think. And chips, and chocolates, and snacks for Easton. And she just said, "I dropped it off at your door. And let me know if I can get you anything else." And I think that was one of the nicest things. Because I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone, and I don't know what to say when, "Do you need help?" "I need help. I need to bring my baby back." And that's just, no one can do that. But that was the nicest thing. So now, when people ask me, "Hey, I know someone who lost a baby, I don't know what to do," which I'm so open to that. I can help. I will answer, and I'll give you suggestions from having been the receiver. Bring food. If they have kids, bring them snacks for their kids, because the last thing you want to do is cook and think about what to cook and grocery shop and all of that. It blew my mind and how impactful that was. So I'm really grateful for that. And everyone was very, very kind. But the looks, you get a lot of looks after, because everybody knows, "Oh, you're the woman that lost her baby." And it's sad. And I know that people don't know what to say, and that's okay. I'd rather someone say, "I don't know what to say." It's okay. We are well aware you don't know what to say, because we don't know what to say. And we can tell when you want to ask. When you want to ask questions. So I would just call people out and say, "Hey, it looks like you have some questions for me. Is it about Lexie?" And 99% of the time it was yes. And I don't care if it was curiosity or just to satisfy your gossip knowledge. For me, I could sense it. Like, I could literally taste it in the air when someone wants to ask me a question. So I decided that I would keep Lexie's promise. That I would talk about her and us and help other moms and dads and brothers and sisters. We often forget about the dad in the grieving process. And I know I didn't talk much about James because I've made a promise. I said, I can only share my experience. I can't share what James went through.
That's his experience. And we grieved very, very differently. So differently. So when I see someone has a question, I just say, ask. And I've been pretty open. I talk about all of this. So the term used for what we went through with Lexie is called terminating for medical reasons. And if you want to get nitty gritty, because I want to hold space for those two, it is a technical term for a very technical abortion. But your baby is far enough that you need to give birth, which I would have it no other way. And the reason why I'm going to touch on the abortion part, because whether you had a stillborn, a miscarriage, an abortion to save your life, an abortion for an ectopic pregnancy, an abortion because you got raped, or you couldn't provide for that baby, or you just didn't want a baby, or you lost a child that was a year old, or through SIDS, or if your child, one of my childhood friends, he passed away when he was like in his late 20s, and his mom grieves him so much, and you will forever be someone's child. That loss never goes away. And regardless of the reasons or what happened, guarantee you carry that in your heart. You carry that in your memories. You might have guilt or shame or blame. And I can speak through this because I had guilt. Did I eat the wrong thing? I blamed myself. I went through a phase where I was like, wow, I killed our baby. And I said that, and I'm going to say it just like that because I will hold the space. I had so much healing to do between then and now, and it's a continuous wave. It does not end. We love those babies, those memories, the lost pregnancies, no matter how soon they were or how far along, they are part of you. And there is no separation between us and what happened and us and our children, and you will carry that the rest of your life. So I want to make sure that I hold a space for everyone. And I've been meaning to share this for all. So, this can reach others far and wide. Because I hope it helps some people either understand or heal or find some navigation through their healing journey, or know that it's going to be okay, but it's never going to be the same. And here's a few tips for if you know someone has lost a child or just lost a child. Do not ask them when they're going to have another child. That's ignorance. And I know it might seem like it's nice and you come from the right place. Please don't. Just please don't. When someone cuts off your arm, you don't go, when are you going to grow another arm? You just don't do that. If, and most people do, have other children after they lose a child or so on and so forth, the new child is its own new child. It does not replace in any way, shape, or form the child or children that you have lost. To think that is, again, ignorance, and that's okay. But usually I say, I hope you never go through this. And I hope if you do, no one ever says this kind of stuff to you. And I've really, really made it my mission to just bring more awareness and education about this. Because I think it's really important. Do not ask them when and if they're going to have another baby. Now, I will make something very, very clear so I do not ever get asked again. We are not having any more children. Lexie is my one and only, and I have Easton. And if you know me, I have my dog. She's pretty much my therapy dog. I had Lexie. We are done. And to go back, when the results finally came in for Lexie's genetic testing and autopsy, we turned it down. Because James and I said, it doesn't matter and we're not going to place blame. Nothing will ever change what happened. And that just felt very in sync for us. There's a lot of other things that when you lose a child that happen. You're afraid, will your relationship withstand this? How will your life change? Will you guys make it through, etc., etc. And I was scared, but it brought James and I closer than I could have ever imagined. And Lexie's with us all the time. We found ways that are just James and I ways that are Lexie moments. Oh, I saw her today, or this happened, or that, or we'll just look at each other and we just know, we have tells that we know it's her. And I hope if you go through this, that you find those tells for yourself to remind yourself that they are forever with you. If you carry them in your heart, they are with you and they will show you signs. This goes for anyone. Whether it's a child or a parent or a loved one, it doesn't matter. It goes across the board. Although we turned down the genetic testing and everything else, just finding out, they were kind and they said, if you ever change your mind, let us know. I said, okay. And then after talking with my family over the years, I found out that my grandma's firstborn actually passed away from hydrocephaly. So that's the exact opposite of what Lexie had. It's where the skull is very expanded and it's filled with extra fluid and such, and they have little to absolutely no viability. And then I kind of knew that it was on my side. And it also kind of hit me that although I'm very, very spiritual, and I like science, at the time I said, I don't want to pass this on to anyone else. I didn't want to pass that on. And, we decided that obviously we're not having any more children. I had to fight to have another IUD put in ASAP because I was petrified of getting pregnant. You're extra receptive basically after you give birth, especially after you lose a baby. And I had to fight with my doctor here in town because I was going to change my mind. And I quote unquote, that was God's will. He has other plans for you. Let God decide. And I'm not religious or not religious. I don't really care what you believe. Your beliefs are yours, and I wholeheartedly believe that. However, if my belief is to get contraception, do not bring your God into my decisions or anyone else's. And I hope that also brings some clarity and knowledge for others who are going through this, because they will not tie my tubes. I was 30 at the time. They still won't tie my tubes, and I'm turning 33 in 2 weeks. So I found a way to mitigate that risk, that fear. And I will kid you not, every single month, Lexie will be 3 on January 16th. Every single month since then, I am absolutely, on a soul and body level, petrified that I will be pregnant by accident. Most people take tests, pregnancy tests, hoping they're pregnant. I take them when I'm so petrified I need confirmation that I'm not. Until the day that I find a doctor who is kind and understanding enough to tie my tubes so I can have peace in my life around this. And that is another huge topic, and I know it's very controversial, but I don't care if things are controversial. We need to start speaking about these without attacking, but bringing light to them, and that is a promise I made Lexie. And if you know me, I talk about her all the time. I share her story, just like I'm doing right now, the best that I can to bring light. I can speak for outsiders who are watching someone go through a loss, and I can also speak for mothers who are going through a loss. I can speak for a mom who had to abort because she got raped, or for terminating for medical reasons, or someone who had a stillborn, or whose child passed away unexpectedly after. I can speak for all of those, and I will hold space for them. and the fathers and the brothers and the sisters. Everyone is forever changed. The fact that you're listening to this episode this far in, you are forever changed. And I think that needs more love, more space, more innerstanding, and more compassion. And I really do believe that Lexie chose us to be her parents. She knew what she was doing. I'll show you guys a picture. She was bossy. You could tell. And I know that we had a big purpose together. And I really, wholeheartedly, passionately, it brought life back to me. I wanted to make sure that her life had meaning. And you know, we hear that often. Oh, I wanted to make sure that person's life had meaning. They mean it. Anyone that says that really, really means it, because it means you pulled yourself out of the hellhole of ashes and grief that you were in and alchemized it to make a difference. So kudos to you. I applaud you, and I love that. So if you have that drive for something, don't underestimate it. Please listen to it. So that being said, if you want to come tomorrow for the walk at 7 p.m., bring a flameless candle or bring food. We always love food. And just remember. Help us remember. We love it when people remember our aunts and uncles and our grandparents and our loved ones. And babies, for some reason, hold this stigma of, oh no, you can never talk about someone that lost a baby. Our babies, we want our babies remembered. And this is something that actually happens quite a bit, and I'm going to talk about it. There is no amount of time that can pass to make the loss go or lessen. And I've heard this. I've heard somebody say it a long time ago. Oh, well, you lost your baby so long ago. Why does it matter now? And I said, help me, whoever's up there. I do not want to go to jail. But now I have a lot more love and compassion, and all I say is, I really hope you never go through this kind of grief. Because I know you're probably not speaking to be mean, but your ignorance is pretty loud. And I can share that because I actually had people, specific people, text me after I lost Lexie, saying that I deserved to lose my child. That they were happy that I had a deformed, demented, dead child, and that I should not bring any more children into this life. And at the time, did I want to go probably, 25 to life sentence? Yeah, I thought about it, but I didn't. Because I know in my heart of hearts, they're just hurting too. Not for my grief, but in their own way. And that people don't know. This is really one of those things that you don't know until you know. And when you know, you wish you never did. It's a grief unlike any other. And if someone is sharing their story with you about their loss, please hold that space for them. Don't say, oh, I had a friend who also lost a baby like this. They're trying to tell you for that one moment. Maybe it's the first time they've talked about their baby in a week, a month, a year, 10 years. I had a mom come up to me, it had been 40 years, and she'd never talked about the child she lost. Please give them that space. If they want to talk about it, listen to their story, because every mom's story is as unique, as loving, and as important as the other. There is no worse than anyone else. There is no more important, more tragic. There is no value in that. It is based in love. And if you see a couple that has lost a child, please acknowledge the father too. He lost a baby too. He lost a child. He lost a chance to father that child. And, for people who think time should make it go away, for me, the first Halloween was very hard. I will never get to dress her up in a costume. I'll never get to, sniff her head and watch her sleep and watch her say her first words and was it mama or baba. I will never get an I love you or a kiss on the cheek. I will never get to be called mom. That's a big one. I'm a stepmom. I'm just a stepmom, according to teenagers. I don't get to be called mom. I don't get to read her a bedtime story. Or say, oh, I love you, Mom. I want to be just like you when I grow up. I don't get that. I don't get to drop her off at her first day of school and to have finger paintings on my fridge. I don't get to have the night wake-up cries and the bottles, and there's nothing I wouldn't trade to have all of that. I don't get to have maybe her first kiss or her first achievement, or like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to dress up as for Halloween? Like, I don't get to buy her Christmas gifts. I don't get to dress her. I don't get to watch her grow up and become her own amazing person. She lives in my memory. So when another parent is sharing their loss of their child, they're tapping into the only memories they have. They don't get to create more. That's all they have. So please give them that space. Please do that for them. And if you're ever someone who wants to talk about their child or baby that they lost, and you need someone that understands, and I will say this, there's a difference between those that get it and those that have never been through it. Now, that doesn't mean it's devalued. There's just a different, pure innerstanding. And that's very, very important. And I always wanted to give the option. If you need to talk to someone, if you need to call someone, please, I'm always here. Always. I want to see pictures of your baby. There was a long time that I was afraid to show certain pictures of Lexie because I was afraid of what people would say. And people would say that. Oh, what's wrong with your baby? Oh, why is her chest so big? Oh, where's the rest of her head? People will say shit like that, and it's really hard always taking the high road, being the bigger person. But I found a lot of peace and compassion in it, and I really want to be transparent. But if you ever want to show me pictures of your baby, please do so. I love it. I love to watch a mom's eyes glow with all of the love that still remains. Our baby is gone, but you're the rest of your life, every day, you have this love in your heart, and it has nowhere to go except those little moments that you get to share your child with the world. Because if you just sit alone and you think about them, the love doesn't go anywhere except it just keeps self-feeding. You have the same amount of love for the child that you lost as you do the children that you have now. And when people say, oh, like, I don't know, I don't want to share, my baby makes people sad. It is not your job to decide if it makes other people sad. Does it make you feel better? Oh, I love sharing about Lexie. I love it. And I love when people give me the chance to talk about my child. And I said to someone, it's the same as when you share their first hockey picture or their school picture every year, or your vacation, or the day they get married, or when they have kids. You get to share all that. We don't. So if you want to give us the opportunity to share what little bit we had or have, as long as they want to share, we love it. We love it. I love remembering angel babies' birthdays. I wish I had a calendar where I could just send flowers to the mom and say, hey, I actually made a friend. Unfortunately, she lost her baby like 8 months after I did. And she's actually organizing the walk, bless her heart, tomorrow. And on her baby's birthday, I made her one of my favorite cakes, a cake I wish I could have made Lexie. I made her a cake and I just dropped it off on her doorstep and I said, I made your baby girl a birthday cake because I want you to know that I'm thinking of her. And when it was Lexie's birthday, she came over and had a piece of Lexie's cake with me. And that just meant the world. And I'm going to wrap this up by touching on the part with Easton and how he felt about everything. And, we are parents, but doesn't mean, just because we're adults doesn't mean we're healed and we know what the hell we're doing. It doesn't. But I went through some kind of, there's a lot more to it, maybe I'll talk about it later, but I went through some kind of healing process. And I really, really, really realized the pain and scared he felt. And I talked to him, like, probably a year and a bit later, and I said, hey man, like, when you did this, I understand you were hurting, but I'm hurt too. And I said, do you want to talk about it? And he did. He wanted to talk about it, and I talked to him not like a condescending adult. That's like, when I say like an adult, it's not like that. It was like equal. You're valid, I'm valid, let's talk about it, because I don't want our relationship to be impacted by this. And he said, I was scared. I was scared you guys wouldn't love me anymore. And I said, that broke my heart in an entirely different level. And I said, what? I said, oh, I'm so sorry. And we hugged and we cried. And I was so excited that you were going to be a big brother, because I know as much as you didn't want to be, you would have been amazing. And she would have loved you and terrorized you and probably farted on you nonstop. And he started to giggle. And our relationship really changed after that. And then he went through a phase of asking us when we were going to have another baby. And that was really, really hard. Because I said, wait, why are you asking if we're going to have another baby when you didn't want us to have her? He's like, well, I'm not the youngest in the family anymore. She is. And that just touched my heart so much. I said, yeah. I said, I love that you said that. I said, but no, we're not having any more babies. And then he looked like a pure grief, sadness. And I said, what's wrong? And he looked on the ground, and I was like, you can tell me. He said, I'm really, really sad. I said, how come? He said, you don't get to have your baby. Just, like, this kid was 13. I'm like, oh, you, please don't feel that. Like, I have a baby. I have a baby. She's just different than everybody else's baby. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I still talk to her every day. I talk about her. I sing with her. I remember her. I get to talk about her. I make her cakes for her birthday. And I pick out every costume that I don't buy, but that I would, like, what would she be doing right now? And he said, yeah, I know, but he said, Dad got to have me. And I love him very much. But he's like, you'll never have that. Not the same. And it just, I don't even have the words for it. So I think I'm just going to end it here, because I've cried myself to a level of dehydration. And if you've made it this far, thank you for listening, but thank you for creating and holding a space for other moms and dads who have lost children, babies, no matter their age, no matter the reason. Because everyone is someone's baby, no matter what. Thank you.